Good morning. I'm Faith Jarvis. I'm the Media and Communications Manager at CCIQ. Thanks for joining us today. Today we're hearing from CEO of Folktale, Sarah Mack. Sarah, thanks for coming and sharing the importance of video marketing with us today. CCIQ is a really proud supporter of Folktale, and we've recently partnered with them to help small businesses like yourselves learn that it's really possible to make professional marketing videos. Often the idea of making marketing videos or videos in general is a little bit overwhelming, especially when we think of the technological side of things. But the availability and accessibility of technology has come a long way and it's really made it a lot easier. Often the element of missing is just the confidence of knowing how to use it. Sarah's going to be taking some of sharing knowledge with us today about how to make it easier for everyone. She's a passionate storyteller and content creator who really believes in the benefits and knows how to make video work. So today we'll hear about some tips on how to make a good video, how to implement, and then how to use that within your broader marketing strategy. We'll also get a demonstration of the Folktale app so we can really see how simple it is to start your journey into making good content. There is an opportunity for you to ask questions at any time today. There's a little chat box on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Please feel free to pop them in there at any stage and we'll add them and we'll get to them as we go throughout this morning's session. So Sarah, I'll now hand it over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faith, and thank you everyone here at CCIQ for joining me and Faith at the webinar. And so for the purposes of the next few minutes, I'm going to go through and share a little bit about, using video to promote your business, providing you with a couple of tips, and then from there, giving you a demo of Folktale. So I'm going to remove myself from the main video screen. And if you have any questions, please feel free to include them, and Faith will be looking at them, and I look forward to answering them as we go. And so I'm just waiting for my presentation to load here. And so hopefully you're able to see the full screen. And again, looking at ways that you can promote your video or your business through video. Now, really quickly, this is a really interesting quote because I really live by it. So vibrant storytelling culture really is the difference between whether your organization has a living, breathing portfolio of different stories from different perspectives that share its impact, or just a single, somewhat stagnant story. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes and give you a bit of a background as to how I've come to build Folktale, because I think that's really important, the why behind why Folktale exists. And so as an entrepreneur, a small business here living in Brisbane for the last 10 years, I've built more of a traditional film production studio called The Storyboxes, based in Fortitude Valley. And that is, telling stories that matter, and right now stories in the form of documentaries and really simple, beautiful content for businesses as well. The challenge that we posed there was that it takes a lot of professional cinematographers, it's quite expensive, and it's not really scalable for a lot of people to access stories in their communities. And so we noticed that story is very much a spectrum. What that means is you have storytellers that can be told by filmmakers, very high-end production, really fancy cameras. But at the same time, stories can be told by everyday people in your community as well. And so in the first instance, what we're going to talk about is how we can get you to leverage video content yourself, because for us, storytelling can be told through various means, and video is just one of various means to communicate your story. We know that video is very effective in businesses of all kinds. So how do we get you to create more simple and easy videos? And the first thing to consider here is that through the next bit of my presentation, this is really the core thing that I'd really like everyone to get across. And so we realize that video can be scary, to communicate your story can be hard, but for the next couple of moments, we want you to really embrace discomfort. Because discomfort is really how you're going to really get yourself to communicate anything that you're doing within your business, as well as the stakeholders and the community in which you reside in. And so when we look at video, or we look at video within a storytelling context, this is a really wonderful quote from GE. And they said, behind every person, behind every company, and behind everything, there's a story of how it got there, and the most relevant stories connect on a personal level. And we're looking really quickly at another report here, just in terms of some data before we get gritty into it. But there was a data from World Bank, and they're creating all of these incredible policies and papers and reports And they decided to look at the data behind the reports and said, is anyone actually reading the reports that we're creating? And they realized that nobody was downloading it and nobody was reading. And so one of the things is, how do you actually get people to read, communicate, and engage with the content that you're creating? And for us, the data says that video is really the means to get people to connect with the information in your organization. But more importantly, stories make up 65% of our conversation. So video in the form of storytelling is really the two parts of the equation that we're looking at. And if we look at in terms of the rise of mobile devices globally, we know that mobile device, everyone has it. Everyone has that great functionality on your phone where you can actually open the video. You've got that little red button to press record. But it's still really tough to know what to shoot, how to shoot, and how to create something that is coherent for your community and for your audience. As well, also to note, the reasons why we are talking about video in the form of storytelling is that 80% of internet traffic will be video by 2020, and so that's already here. And this data was about 3 years ago. So you can see how quickly video is just trending on every single social media and platform that you engage with. In terms of today's plan, I'm going to go through 3 very simple chapters. I'm going to go through story theory, and all of it in the context of video content creation. Some learnings, really key actions there, some hot tips on how to actually create your video, and then from there, a very quick demo on a tool like Folktale. So chapter 1 is story theory. So in the terms of stories, when we create stories, it's really important that we always start with the why. And the reasons why we start with the why is that makes the difference between why, for example, as a small business, if you are a dentist, why you're doing what you're doing makes your value proposition different from somebody else. So they're actually buying your why versus your what you're doing. The best stories connect through relevance and impact. Because humans have told stories for thousands of years, it's a natural part of who we are and how we understand the world. And it's the reason why we enjoy books, arts, films, and why during COVID-19, everyone's really gone and looked at different ways to hone in on their craft and engage with art and creativity. And again, creating video is difficult. And so how do we actually create stories that have relevance and impact? And so basic storytelling structure 101 here, when you're looking at, let's say, a Hollywood feature film, everywhere to a Netflix, even the corporate videos that you're creating, there's really 4 main P's that you have to look at when creating your video stories. And these elements are passion, people, purpose, and places. Each of these 4 P's serve a crucial role in establishing the visual and spoken elements of your story. And through the power of video, a lot of the things you don't need to necessarily tell, you can actually share so much through visual mediums instead. And through these 4 elements, we understand the context, we understand what happens, what was observed, we understand the outcomes and the observations of what's actually happening. And so for your audience, when you're looking at building video stories within your business, when we look at people and the people at the heart of your story, to us, we equate that to empathy. And we look at place. Where does your story reside? Are you in Fortitude Valley? Are you in a different location? We really want to empathize and show the location which you're located in. And place gives us authenticity. The purpose and the why behind you telling that video story gives us engagement. And passion gives us meaningful understanding of why you're creating this video story for us in the first place. And so how do we do it? In order to actually build those 4 P's together and defining our why, we also need to think about working backwards. Who are you trying to communicate to? Who is the audience? Where are they? How are they connecting with the videos you created? And what are the main outcomes you'd like to see from creating the video? So an outcome could be, if you're a charity, you'd like to see more donations, or it could be awareness or an increased pipeline of business inquiries or customers into your organization. It's really important that a lot of the times when we look at marketing and video creation, we're often asked, who is it for? And everyone says, everybody. The video is for everybody. And that's really tough because we know that if you're creating an audience subset for, younger generation versus those 40 to 60, everyone has a different way of being able to engage with that video. It's also really important to note that video content creation in this day, particularly on social media channels, it's a very noisy space. And so if you have to think about when creating video, it's not necessarily the length of time the video goes on for. So it's not necessarily, hey, I need to create a 60-second, a 90-second, a 5-minute video. The length of time is actually not the challenge we have here. It's actually the first 8 seconds. The first 8 seconds enables your audience to know whether they're going to join you on that journey or they're not going to continue. And so what we've seen in terms of data is that you need to have those first 8 seconds, or we call that hook, so impactful or so interesting that they're going to come on that journey with you. And then they will join you for 3 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes onwards. So that's something for you to consider when creating those pieces of content in your organization. So chapter 2, very quickly, in terms of some of the learnings. So we're going to go through 3 very simple learnings in terms of creating content itself. And the first one we talked about from the very beginning, discomfort. We know that sometimes creating video content with traditional film studios and agencies is expensive. However, there's so many different wonderful tools for you to be able to do it yourself. And so what that means is practice at home. Learn how to actually communicate what you're trying to say in a very simple manner. Really simple, mundane activities that you think, oh, well, are really quite easy for me to comprehend is actually really new and exciting for audiences that might not know about it. Just keep recording, don't strive for perfection, and keep working on moving outside of your discomfort zone. The next one when creating video yourself is that audio is key. Out of everything that you're creating, if you get fancy cameras, the latest and greatest technology and gadgets and gizmos, the one thing that really needs to be thought about is audio, because that's the first thing that's going to cheapen your product. And so, for example, if you're in a cafe and you're trying to communicate something, it's actually the subtle nuances around you, birds, clanking of, glass, those things actually change the quality and the sophistication of your product. And so we look at ways that we can continually learn how to work on the discomfort, but also audio, find a quiet spot, and look at ways that you can communicate clearly. And the final one is that we know this is a bit, depending on your social platform, but we find that putting it in landscape, flipping your phone from a horizontal setting, which is really quite common on Instagram and traditional platforms, but putting it into landscape actually enables audiences to see more of your environment. Because a lot of the times you're not necessarily putting you at the heart of the story, you're actually communicating so many things around you. So landscape gives you more information as well. And so in terms of chapter 3, some hot tips on creating really simple video content by yourself. The first hot tip here, and these are things that we've gathered from running a traditional film studio, working with professional filmmakers, and these are very much really simple things in the industry as best practices. So number 1, the first hot tip is really simply no chicken wings. And so when you're taking photos, there's a tendency to want to hold your camera or your phone away from your body. And I realize you can't really see me, so it's hard to really show you this demonstration. And so you want to basically have those chicken wings, you know how they're actually flying. Traditionally, if you're home, maybe do the motion of what a chicken wing looks like. Keep your feet and hips width apart. You're basically acting like the tripod. You're going to have a better center of gravity, and there's more stability to capture a range of different shots. If you take that chicken wing, put them right beside so that your elbows and your arms are touching the sides of your body, that actually gives you a lot more stability. And so our friend here, Rex from Toy Story, his arms are really quite short. Put your arms on the side as if you're a T-Rex, put the phone in your hand in landscape, and you actually have built a human-sized tripod. So that's the first hot tip. The next one is go towards the light. This is really awkward because the light, understandably, can be quite bright if you're going towards the light. But lighting is really important as well, particularly if you're doing things on your own or you're doing an in-house team that's creating content for you. So keep your arms nice and still, close to your body, but at the same time, go towards the light. So what does that mean? So if you're on a sunny day and you see the sun behind you, that means that you're going to catch shadows on the actual video creation that you're doing. However, if you always look at the sun or where the light is, if it's in front of you, on the side of you, lighting actually changes so much the mood. And that's how lighting is created in traditional videos as to how people create horror films or romantic films or any type of film. The same methodologies are applicable here when creating your own video content in your company. And the final one here is it's always nice to have a reflection at the end. If you're communicating something, even if it's like a really big concept, always conclude that thought and summarize your learnings, and don't leave your audience hanging, because there's so much that generally happens in a 60-second, 90-second, 5-minute video that sometimes things can be forgotten. And so similar to bookends, start with what you're going to do and then conclude that thought and summarize your learnings as well. And so what I'm going to do right now is I really showed you just really high level theory on story. We looked at the 4 Ps. We looked at ways that we can increase the production value on your own mobile devices, or even cameras that you might have available to you in your organization. What I'm going to do next as well is, once you start incorporating some of those elements, I'd like to introduce you to Folktale. And so when I talked about at the very beginning, running a more traditional film production studio with cinematographers and all of the traditional and professional filmmakers, we said that's not good enough. We need to empower organizations to communicate their own stories. And so the main thing that we noted here was that creating video is really hard, like we talked about. And folks don't know what to shoot, how to shoot it, how to create real, timely, and engaging content in a matter of minutes on their mobile devices. So I know that this presentation is going to be shared with you all afterwards, and that introduction note that's here, it's an actual introduction video, and for the purposes of today's presentation, I won't show it to you. What I'm going to do though, is I'm going to move into the next phase, which I'm screen sharing right now, and show you a little bit about Folktale very quickly. So this is Folktale.io, the technology company that I also founded 3 years ago. And I'm really excited because I'm like, now we're not necessarily replacing filmmakers, but we're actually enabling folks to become more effective video storytellers on their own. And so I'm going to quickly show you this diagram here just to give you a high-level picture of why Folktale exists. So we saw 2 major problems in organizations. We have organizations that, I'll give CCIQ as an example. CCIQ, they know that they've got wonderful staff members, about 52 staff members internally. They've got wonderful chambers spread across Queensland, as well as many members dispersed as well. So you're talking thousands of different stories that sit within CCIQ's ecosystem. So we've got 2 parts of the equation. We have people that want stories in your organization, and we have people in your organization that have the stories. So we have, in terms of the first phase, people that want the stories, we call them commissioners. So they have stories in their community. They know they need to be able to get them, but it's really hard. You got folks in your community that have wonderful stories, but for many reasons, it's really hard to create something that's consistent with quality in a timely fashion. So Folktale looks at those 2 sides of the equations. So we have someone on the commissioner, think of it like a newsroom. And they're like, wow, okay, I really want, let's use the dentistry example here. I really want all my dentists within my practice to create video stories of what's actually happening on the ground, real, authentic stories that's happening in a day in the life, as an example. They could go and invite these creators, the storytellers and the dentists, as an example, to download the app and say, hey, similar to a recipe, this is the recipe I'd really like you to follow. And similar to actually putting the ingredients in the recipe on their mobile devices, tells you exactly what to shoot and how to shoot it in a simple and compelling way. Once the video is created, it's then sent back to the commissioner for review. And so this is very much a way to be able to listen on scale, but at the same time, a wonderful repository of rich video stories that you as an organization can make decisions with. So maybe some might go out to market and communicate what you're doing. Some might be great for research. Some might be just to listen to what your community is saying. And so the greatest challenge we're looking at here is, how do you actually listen on scale through the power of video storytelling? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you a very quick demo of Folktale. And so I've just skipped through the entire pleasantries at the beginning. There's this whole onboarding beautiful video, but for the purposes of today's demo, I'm skipping straight into the heart of it. Here on my phone, so I'm screen sharing my phone, and this is the actual app itself. We're not focused on the commissioner, we're actually focused on the storyteller or the video storyteller here, the two sides of the equation for Folktale. So I want to show you how easy it is for you to create video stories within your organization. The top right-hand corner, you'll see a plus button, and I'm going to press that plus button, and straight away we have a whole bunch of predetermined global templates. And these templates have been built. Understandably, there'll be more templates that built as we continue to build out the technology. But these are templates that have been built based on a lot of listening to our early adopter customers. How do you create a very simple business profile for your organization? How do you give a project update of what's actually happening on the ground? So I'm going to press business profile, and I'm going to put a title as an example, and straight away I'm going to get started. So I apologize, my lighting here, it's really bright. And so what I want to show you here is this is the first look at the user interface. I told you at the very beginning of the presentation that everyone has a mobile device and everyone has that video functionality on their phone. The challenge is when someone presses that red button, there's a bit of loss. You don't know what to shoot and how to shoot it. So what we've built in here are all of the mechanisms for you to actually create compelling video stories in a matter of minutes. So here's a look at the Folktale tool. At the very bottom, we have these black boxes, and we're in the business profile template at the moment. In this business profile, you've got all these what we call storyboards. So each box gives you part of the ingredient. So a bit of flour, a bit of eggs, a little bit of salt. You're starting to add the ingredients to build the cake together. And the first one here, in this first box, we know that the information is this is a people-led shot. This is an interview, so therefore this is why the camera is directly facing me from the get-go. At the top, I have a recommended 20 seconds to complete this first storyboard. And at the bottom here, I have the questions. Who is the business? Where are they based? And what do you do? So right away, all the information is there for me. Got 20 seconds, give or take, there's a bit of fluidity there. I have to resolve these 3 questions. And before I press the red button, I'm like, well, do I film it this way? Am I filming it this way? How do I actually film it so it's compelling? I'll press that little question mark button on the bottom right-hand corner of the film, and straight away it shows you the composition. Okay, right away, wonderful. I know this shot, I need to have a piece to camera kind of looking like this, and straight away I have a ring light here, which is really bright. I can press the red button, and I can now communicate all of the pieces of the puzzle for this first shot. So I'm going through who is the business, where are they based, what do they do? I'm going through and resolving that question. Press the red button, that first storyboard is completed. I'll show you one more and then I'll give you a final product look at the demo. This next one here, in terms of the next part of this storyboard, is a places shot on the left-hand side and a wide shot. But the challenge is, okay, well, I didn't go to film school and I have no idea what a wide shot means, and I don't know what places look like. And going back to the 4 Ps, when we talked about the story theory, we said in order to empathize with the people that you're actually going to go on a journey with from a video content creation point of view, you need to empathize with the location in which they're situated in. Show where the business operates is the question, and I have 4 seconds to complete this. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to press the question mark and aha, okay, give me a wide shot, an establishing shot of the location in which I am situated in. Wonderful. I can do that. Now, at the same time, if I've been really clever and organized, and I'm like, wow, okay, I have pre-existing footage on my camera roll, I can press the button to the right of the question mark, and straight away it goes into your camera roll where you can extract a video content and toss it into that box. So the purposes of this, I'm going to press the red button, and straight away you can see my setup, and I've got 4 seconds to resolve it, but now look, I'm pressing stop and I've gone overboard because I went 3 seconds over. No problem. There's a little yellow exclamation mark on that storyboard. So I'm going to press the scissor button and it's going to stitch it for me straight away, modify it. And like a recipe, now you're going through how to create really simple, consistent, timely videos in a matter of minutes. So this is the business profile video. And similar to like a chef and, you know, in ingredients, what I've done is about 10 minutes before this presentation, I created this video for all of you to take a look at. So once you've completed each of the black boxes and resolved all the questions and completed all of the directions, I'm going to press play here. And this button here you'll see is preparing. Preparing means it's very much like a traditional video production crew on your phone. So similar to creating very simple videos with my traditional film studio, I've actually disrupted myself in the sense that you don't actually need to find an editor to create anything. You've now created everything as a one-stop shop on your mobile device. So this is an example of the business profile video that I created less than 10 minutes before this workshop in order to show you how simple it was to follow the directions. And this is an example of a finished product with the business profile template. Hi everyone on the CCIQ webinar today. Thank you for joining me, and I'm really looking forward to showing you a demo of Folktale. This is Sarah. I'm here in my office in Folktale, and I'm going to show you around. Let's take a look. So here I am inside my office all by myself, and I am here to keep the plants alive, but also to look at ways that we can reintroduce the staff back into the office, as well as being able to let them also work from home. It's been a really good time to look at the best working styles. Here I am showing you elements of our office and using Folktale to put it together. So the goal of today's Folktale video is to show you a little snapshot into my office and my business, but also show you the functionalities of Folktale. It's very much like a video production crew on your phone, guiding you on what to shoot and how to shoot it. I hope you've enjoyed my demo today. Thank you. So taking the functionalities of a video production company, we've effectively put in all of the elements of creating a really simple story template for you through the creation of video content. Now, I'm just going to show you very quickly because I showed you one of two elements. We talked about those who want the stories and those who have the stories. In this case, I showed you the app and how people can really simply create videos in a timely manner in a matter of minutes. And then what happens next is they upload it onto a portal where the commissioner or the person that's looking, the individuals looking for the stories, can actually see that on their side to make decisions on whether it's used for marketing or for listening or for research, and or how do you actually capture all the different stories in your community itself. So looking at time, what I'd like to do is I'll leave it there because I'll open it up for questions. But if you're interested in learning more about Folktale, but also looking at some ways that it might be able to help you in your business, I'd love for you to email us at connect@folktale.io. We can share with you more educational resources and also teach you a bit more around video content creation itself. If you have any questions, I can be reached here, sarah@folktale.io. It's been a pleasure chatting with all of you today, and I look forward to opening up the floor for questions. Over to you, Faith.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just finding my buttons to turn on everything again. Thanks, Sarah. I think as you mentioned earlier on, we're all connecting and seeing each other's stories in so many more platforms now, you know, so it's online, we're connecting on social media. And I think where businesses can become quite unsure is they're thinking, but what's my story to tell? And so, you know, what's the concept there? I know it's easy when I believe everybody's got a story and everyone likes to see each other, but people feel they have to have this high production value behind it. From your experience, about what's that connection that the audience is looking for to what the stories every business has to tell?
I think that's a wonderful question, and I didn't want to get too much in detail here, but when you're looking at the story, we talked about the 4 Ps in terms of the elements of what makes up a compelling story. There's actually an additional element there. And when you're thinking about the stories that fit into your organization, we often think about what are the uniqueness, what's desire, and what's the complexity of what makes your organization compelling. So uniqueness, complexity, and desire. What makes something that enables audiences to want to join you on that journey? We also need to know that we want to have real, authentic stories. And so if everything looks too perfect, then people won't empathize with why they need to join you on that journey as well. Through distress is the journey itself. So looking at those 3 additional elements of how you can create compelling stories through the creation of video content is really good to think about: uniqueness, complexity, and desire.
So we've actually had a couple of questions about the Folktale app just come through, and one's about the ability to use it. Can it be modified to be a desktop-based, or is it purely on a mobile device?
So the whole point of the Folktale app in terms of on the mobile technology is for folks to be able to create easy video content. It's available on an iPad. I guess we need people to move around, right? I guess it's about being able to share your environment and be able to empathize with all of the activities that are happening within. It's not available, so the platform itself, those who are after the stories, we call them the commissioners, that is available on a platform. But in terms of the storytellers themselves, that is meant to be facilitated via either a mobile device or on iPad itself. Does that help answer that question a little bit? So I think there's really 2 parts of that equation. So
yeah, absolutely. Sorry, yeah.
I was going to say, like, as an example, if you are a member-based organization or you've got multiple hubs of locations across, different locations that are really hard to travel to, everyone has a mobile device. You can follow a recipe, and it's like not needing to mobilize a film production crew. You can actually get compelling stories in a matter of minutes, all told through the mobile app itself.
Yep. And we've just had a question about the Folktale app being, is it a freely downloadable, but it's a service-based application, isn't it?
It's a service, but it's still very much a product and a technology solution. And so what that means is we have a lot of educational resources in order to guide you through what to shoot and how to shoot it. But in terms of what that looks like, it is more like 2 parts of the subscription. Are you asking about, I guess, how it works?
Yes.
So it's really about the organization coming on board with a basic licensing fee, and then it's based on the number of users per seat. And so the users could be how many folks will be using the mobile app itself. You could have up to a tier of 10, 20, 50, 100, etc. And each of them have a different price point as a result of the users that come on board.
Yeah. And so just thinking generally about video marketing though as well, do you think there is a magic time that video should go for? If we're thinking of social platforms, that engagement level with an audience, is there a specific time that people should be aiming for if they want to create snackable, engaging content for a broad audience?
I think that's a huge question in itself, because it's so different depending on which social media platform, because each of them have its own different algorithms. So I might just give you a couple of examples on what that looks like. Again, we don't want to be part of the noise. And so how do you create like a content strategy or a video strategy that helps complement any of the information you're sharing? If we look at LinkedIn as one potential platform of use, it's got a really interesting algorithm such that generally folks do better in the morning when you post it versus the evening. Understandably, it's more of a business platform. At the same time, it actually depends on how much momentum you can get once you've actually posted that video. So it's not actually about the quality of video, it's about how many folks start to engage with it. What does engaging mean? It means how many people not necessarily just like it, but actually share it and comment. So if they're actually creating some conversation and stimulating discussions, that's actually how that video starts to become more and more shareable across different networks itself. And again, LinkedIn itself, and this is where it's really hard because you don't want to have additional confounding variables to say why a video did or did not work. You really need to understand the behaviors of the platform in which it's actually operating within. So final things about LinkedIn, for example, written reports, because again, LinkedIn is very much like a very large startup in itself, that tends to rank better. And what that means is you've got all these pockets and different networks of organizations. If you create, let's say, a written report or a photo or a video that's natively posted on your platform or your channel, that tends to rank easier and starts to spread easier. If you share video, that doesn't rank really well. But if you actually load video on your own channel, that tends to rank better. It also depends on how many hashtags you include as well. Again, LinkedIn is a client of ours. That's why I know I was inside of Intel as well. So I'm just giving you extra bits. 3 to 5 hashtags of what you're actually communicating. And also, if you start to tag about 5 to 7 people on the post itself, it helps stimulate that conversation. Again, thinking about the algorithm, how do you get folks outside of your network to start sharing it? And then from there, that's how it starts to take off. The final point as well is that you could post a video from, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and it could still be going through different community networks. And that's very different from the behavior of, let's say, Instagram or Facebook, because it's not necessarily about, you know, the length and the communities in which it shows and how it spreads that way for LinkedIn. Facebook is very much, once it's on the timeline, you've shared it. The sharing is obviously more successful than liking. Liking is very passive. But if there's sharing, there's obviously more engagement from a communication and comments point of view. That tends to rank nicer, but it doesn't have that long tail like a LinkedIn platform. Does that help answer? Like, that is a huge kind of conversation for it in itself.
Absolutely. And I think, though, for some small businesses, it's just making that there's so many wrong, and not necessarily wrong ways, but different ways to doing it. But it's actually just starting the process. So starting that creating the content first, and then putting it out there and experimenting with it as it goes. I think people just get a little bit scared of the making of it initially. And so it's really about trying to start that storytelling process.
Without a doubt, I think the first point we talked about was to embrace discomfort. In order to test all of these different platforms, you need to have content, you know, stories and videos to actually share. And they can be really simple pieces to camera. But again, if we keep true to our why, like, why are you creating it, and really think about how you're actually adding value to anyone that's watching what you're creating. And it could be your existing stakeholders, could be new audiences. Each of them have a different reason as to why they're going to join you. And that, I think, when you start creating content on a more disciplined, regular basis, that again makes it more comfortable, but at the same time, you can start to see that call and response as to what your audience truly wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of your best tips out of today as well is to really concentrate on that audience, because it can't be for everybody, and it's identifying what you want that video to do and to who you want to communicate it to. And I know that when we're thinking about potential customers, it's very different to, you know, broadening our partner database or something like that. So I think that's a really great tip, to think about what we're making and who we're making it for, or who we want to reach with the content.
Without a doubt. And I think that, and we're also guilty of that, we are so close to our product, we're so close to our business, and there's so much to share. But I think, if anything as well, is just keep it really simple, because a lot of folks, like even for myself today, giving you 3 hot tips, 3 lessons learned, 4 Ps, that's a lot of information for all of you. And so if you can keep it to really simple things that feel like there's a win, and again, it might feel really pedestrian for you as an organization, but your audience isn't your expert. And so simple things like, all right, chicken wings, keep it tight, make it nice and steady. You've just given value to your community, right? Now the camera's not going to feel like a Blair Witch Project. It's actually going to feel nice and steady. And that is actually what professional filmmakers do. And so if you could just do that, get audio key, and, you know, creating some of those tidbits, you're really going to start to differentiate yourself when you start telling your stories.
We've just had another question come in, and again, I'm sure there's multiple answers to this one. It's, how often should you be posting videos on social content, to social platforms?
It really depends, really. I'm really sorry. That's a very, very, very question. And so it depends on, I guess, what you need to communicate. So if you simplify all of the messages, like sometimes if you do it too much, it can be seen as just too much effort for anyone to watch. My only recommendation is, first think about what you're planning on communicating and why you're communicating it. You could have once every week. I think once every 6 months is much too long, but if you look at a schedule of a dance of once a week or once every other couple of days, or mixing up the rich media as well. Maybe not everything is video. Maybe you're posting a photo, maybe you're posting a written content, or you're sharing something, not necessarily from your context, but you're sharing something that you think is going to give value to your community. So sometimes on our channels, we're like, well, I'm going to give you a TED Talk that, you know, we didn't create, but we feel it's going to add value to you. So rather than look at the quantity, think about the quality of the amount of times that you're creating it and what value you're giving back to the audience in which you're trying to communicate to.
Fantastic. Sarah, thank you so much for your time today. I know it's a massive topic in terms of, oh, sorry, we've just had, actually, this was a great question as well. I was going to ask myself, the importance of subtitles. So we are watching, but we're not always watching with sound. So what do you say about subtitles?
Absolutely, 100%. You want to have your content as inclusive as possible. And so for the purpose, I didn't really have it here, but inclusivity in terms of all of the senses, you know, you show something, you hear something, you read something. It really does up the content creation. It's a bit harder. In terms of the Folktale app, understandably, we're still building the different roadblocks. Captioning will be a must inside the app itself. But if you are creating your own video content, absolutely, as much as possible, put in the captioning.
Yeah. Sarah, thank you so very much for your time. We really appreciate it. To everyone who's joined us today, thank you. Please, you know, get out there creating some videos, tag CCIQ so we can see what businesses are doing. You know, it's a platform that you can reach a lot of people, and small businesses especially have some great stories to tell. It's about what you're doing every day. It's about the passion behind your business, the people who work for you, the products that you're making, the services that you're selling. And we've all got stories to share, and luckily platforms now to make it readily available for others to see them. So look forward to seeing everybody's videos as they come through. And Sarah, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Faith, and thank you everyone for having me today.